So we have Savan Gupta. Savan is EVP heading the mobile strategy at Bharti Airtel. He has a versatile experience spanning over 2 decades, mainly into wireless technology and services. I have cut short everyone's introduction because it will seem like a PhD reading out everyone's accomplishments. So please bear with me on that. And please, speakers, bear with me on that. Then we have Mr. Rajesh Singh. Rajesh heads the radio planning and strategy for Vodafone India. He has over 35 years of experience in the telecom industry. He has played a pivotal role in the evolution of technologies, including traditional and advanced wireless networks. Then we have Theo. Theo is heading the strategic number evolution team for Ericsson at Southeast Asia, Australia and Indian markets. He has been in the industry for over 20 years now. Then Daniel. Dan is a senior marketing director responsible for driving the business, silicon, software, and platform strategy for FlexWAN. Dan joined Intel in 2005 and has held a range of technical and marketing roles, mainly focused on networking segments, playing pivotal roles in NFV market transformation and cloudification of the RAN. Then we have, Manish. Manish is the executive president of product strategy at HFCL. He has been instrumental in defining product strategies across telco, enterprise, and consumer markets. He brings deep expertise in 5G, Wi-Fi, and network technologies, having previously led innovation at Airtel and co-founded Elena Networks. Then last but not the least, we have Prithvish. Prithvish is a pioneer in the telecom industry with 20 years of experience. His experience spans across multiple product verticals, including Open RAN portfolio, for which is obviously one of the important bases in India. So with that, we'll dive into the question and answers. Please allow us about 40-45 minutes to get through the questions. Then we'll have a small conclusion, or maybe we'll have open the floor for questions from you, and then we'll try and conclude that. Okay? And if you have a burning question, please try and keep it till the end. We'll try and bring you in. So with that, let me just open this. So Theo, let me start with you. Get you the center of attention. So Theo, in what ways do you see Xciting driving innovation in telecom services? And how can operators leverage Xciting technologies to differentiate themselves in a highly competitive environment?
I think the title on the panel is of Xciting, right? So I've been thinking, what is Xciting, right? Actually, it covers the centralized RAN, the virtualized RAN, also the open RAN as well, right? And when it comes to the centralized RAN, it is not something very new. If you look back into the 3G time, the Korea actually do quite a bit of centralized RAN, right? That means they're trying to pull the baseband into a centralized location. They call it the baseband hotel. But then the trade-off is when you actually pull the baseband into a central location, then the radio and your baseband become far away, right? And the requirement on the link between the radio and the baseband, each antenna point is up to like 2.5 gigabit per second. So you literally, if you have 100 radios, you need 100 links on 10 gigabit per second to pull it together, right? So the TCO saving that the pooling gain versus the amount of money you invest in the transport to pull the radio back to the baseband, more or less doesn't justify the investment, right? Then when it comes to the 4G part, then the EC3 come in, the link between the radio and the baseband start to be optimized a bit, right? And operators start to explore a little bit on small cluster on centralized RAN. That means if, let's say, I have a train station, right? And it is quite nearby, right? And of course, the benefit is if you pull radio together and talk in a single baseband, some of the features like downlink coordinated multi-point, uplink comm, you actually improve the user experience, right? But somehow some of this functionality requires some device support, right? Then it doesn't fly so much, right? So then industry start to explore a bit, why not, if the pooling gain is actually quite small, why not make it a little bit open, right? So Open RAN come with 3 components. Number one is the hardware-software decoupling. Then it gives the sort of the TCO saving, right? And this part is yet to be proven. The second part, of course, to open up the northbound interface with A1 interface, with O1 interface, so that some of the innovation coming from the third party, from the operator themselves, or from the vendor, or we call it the non-real-time RIC, right? Radio intelligent control. Then some of the intelligence can be bring into the RAN to execute it more intelligently, right? So this is the second part, right? Then the third part, of course, is if there's all open interface, it give more automation across all the components. It give more efficiency, right? So at the end, how open is it? From Ericsson's point of view, it comes back to these three main criteria. If we want to achieve a TCO saving, but at the same time, we must make sure whatever integration happen, it has to sustain with the same performance or even better. The same size of the hardware. It cannot be after you segregate, then you have more hardware, then the size will be bigger. And the third part is all the components together, it have to be achieve energy saving, right? Once all this component is being fulfilled and it actually create a TCO saving, then we foresee that the large scale can be executed, right? But at the same time, not talking about the hardware software segregation, but the open interface on the northbound that the RFs, the operators, the vendor, and the third parties can actually explore to bring the intelligence come in. That is actually the immediate benefit operator actually can leverage.
Right, Theo. Thanks for breaking down into three parts, really. And maybe, Savan, I'll take your thoughts on this. Theo's is effectively an OEM's view, right? If I can call it that way. He also talked about device support, which typically becomes right downstream. Energy saving, which is extremely important for operators. How do you bring in, with all of these views, what do you think is really the competitive advantage that an operator really needs to bring in? Because that's finally the experience that is there with the customer. What are your thoughts around this?
Yeah, so XRAN adapts open architecture, and it also decouples hardware and software, which will bring many benefits to industry. The first being, because of open interfaces, it will widen the ecosystem, which will foster competition and innovation. Second part is cost reduction, which Thea also talked about. XRAN will use general purpose hardware, which will drive the cost. The third is because of cloud native deployments, you get lifecycle management advantages like inline service upgrades, self-healing, and then better resiliency, right? Apart from it, what I see, you can do faster rollout. It is more scalable, right? And then because of cloudification, you can introduce AI-based use cases, right? You can launch cloud edge applications much faster on XRAN.
Do you see analytics to be part of this?
Yeah, so basically, today, if we have to deploy any AI use case or any SON use case, we have to deploy vendor-specific platform. So XRAN is opening up a standard platform on which you can widen the ecosystem. You can introduce any partner who has a better use case, which can actually improve energy efficiency, which can improve the spectral efficiency, which can improve user experience. All these use cases you can launch. So you get faster deployments of these use cases. And definitely, operators who are thinking of modernizing the infrastructure, right? This is an excellent option for them to consider XRAN for scaling the networks.
Thanks, Savan. So continuing with the operator theme, may I just request Rajesh. Rajesh, how is XRAN contributing to the evolution of network architecture? We've talked about a lot of these things. I think architecture at the network level is extremely important to open up all these touch points, particularly in enhancing flexibility and efficiency. And what are the key benefits for telecom operators in managing 5G networks using these XRAN technologies?
Thank you, Shobit. And I think this two guy was very serious. I will take a little lighter note on the RAN.
Thank you, sir. First day, first show, so we should have a
So
little
I'll
bit
answer
of
the
yes,
question a
thank
little
you.
later. So I don't know how you arrange this seats, but it's really well arranged. My left side is the supplier, and right sides are operators. And we are naturally aligned, and these are naturally aligned. And when I don't understand, I go this side because they all teach me, and Taisa is one of teacher in this one, Ericsson guys. And when I able to understand, then I go right side to align that industry, do right things. So that's how we placed, I think. It's good that when I read first time, this is the discussion XRAN. So I thought it's a good thing to discuss because many times we discuss only ORAN. So today when you say X, it doesn't know what is this X. It can be traditional RAN, and I think I talk about CRAN, VRAN, and of course ORAN. ORAN we all discussed. And very recently, another terms has coined up, that is the AI RAN. So many RANs now, right? So once you ask me architecture, so good to that ORAN has no architecture finally. It's an open architecture. So there's really, if you see this is open architecture which talks about SMO. So many things ORAN is, bringing, and it already has brought, rather I'll say, which is evolved in last 4 or 5 years, and Indian market and many markets people did a lot of work. But somehow it couldn't be scale up. So the problem is right now scaling. Though it's matured, it's offers because it's best of breed. You can select best hardware, you can separate best applications, you can select best software, and finally you can combine all and get the best result as well. So outcome is expected to be better in terms of either performance, RTCO, everything was expected to be better. Why they are not better? Maybe there is some question mark, but largely I see it's a cost side may not be better, but performance they are better now. And same time, the way industry is moving and networks become complex, it has to be automated. So all as is open platform, so either AI or SMO, which I talked about, service managed orchestration, everything is there. Then another platform came with ORAN, which is RIC. It's very, very powerful platform. So this RApps where all application is open, and even a lot of discussion happening on API side. So if this APIs, radio APIs get open. So I think opportunity exploration is enormous, which was not there in so-called old traditional RANs, where it was the closed systems, it was managed by a particular vendor, locked end-to-end, but it's totally open. Now, you ask me on the 5G what's happening. So somehow 5G also is moved faster. Maybe they couldn't catch up. At least ORAN I am seeing couldn't catch up that much what expected in the market. But one big shift is happening now. The ORAN was expected to be taken care by some niche player, and you know all names which just came in the market. Either it's a LTO Star earlier, Rakuten, then I named it Movineer, and even Intel, some level they were working, and HP also came, and AMD, all the chips guys also started working. But now the big brothers were a little silent on that. Now if you see the big brother has jumped in the field now, and they're showing, if you see recently AT&T deal, which Ericsson has signed up, is a very big deal, and the commitment towards ORAN. 100% network going to be ORAN. That's the big thing happened. Same time, I think another big brother, Nokia, is talking any RAN now. Some here and then even, I think Airtel did one experiment very recently, any RAN. And even some markets, they're also doing some work. And many other markets now started opening up, which they're talking. And big brothers jumping in this game will now really fulfill this ORAN dream, which was not happening much. Smaller player was trying, they put a lot of efforts, but somehow they couldn't scale up. So that is good sign that we are able to now adopt open platforms, right architecture, which is fit for automations, fit for any API external applications, and as well as giving the better consumer services what may be possible in the traditional RAN.
So as I hear, obviously, like you said, the entire journey, the universe is available. In India, I think there is no, limitation in terms of what can be the possibility. Do you see, and this may be a little side question, but do you see any things on a regulatory side where you where you feel that there might be any restriction? Because I thought that Open RAN earlier, there was a lot of restriction because of, spectrum and all the other issues as well. Today, I don't think so there's any challenge around that.
No, regulatory, particular on RAN as such, either traditional or ORAN, it's the same.
It's the same.
Compliance, you have to be both sides. Of course, this is a little open, so your security concern is a little larger, but security concern for even cloud platforms. It's not that RAN is getting open, all platform, if you're on cloud, your core networks are open. So it's security always concerned towards core much more than RAN. And finally, let's NSDTS and this regulatory norms are same. Either ORAN and traditional, I don't think any difference. So regulatory challenge, I don't find. It's largely, how to scale up and how to really massify it, rather, I will say, rather than, it's the best of technology, but how the fast adaptation will happen. I think just a matter of now time to get adopted. I think rest is maybe work has been done.
And scaling in India is not a problem.
Yes, but it has to be right cost.
Cost is always the problem, I guess. Right. So let me just shift over to Daniel. Daniel, on, when we look at resilience of these networks, obviously, like Rajesh brought up a very big point that it's open, and openness obviously creates the vulnerability of security. And therefore, it's very important that these networks become far more resilient, right? So my question to you is, how does XRAN enhance the overall resilience of telecom networks, particularly in the face of rising data demands and the need for being more flexible, scalable architecture?
Thank you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So first of all, great to be here and great to be sharing the stage with these gents. Worked with some of these folks for a long time here on bringing Open RAN out. It's pretty cool time in the industry. And I think we're all getting excited about this term XRAN. I think it's interesting that's coming back in vogue now, because the original XRAN was where we had a situation where we knew that a Xeon processor from Intel with the FEC accelerated, actually from a cost point of view and power, was very, very efficient for 4G, but we were struggling because you had essentially a proprietary interface in CIPRI. And we worked together as an industry. We created XRAN, which is now evolved into ORAN and TIP and whatnot. So, but like the new phrasing of the new term of it is the kind of you define what X means. So that's pretty cool. Also, it's a pretty exciting time if you see the KDDI announcement with Samsung vRAN, another flag in the map of virtual RAN deployments in scale with a major operator. And that was a great announcement because of a scale. But I actually liked the announcement from TELUS. The CTO from TELUS talked about, and he described himself, TELUS, as a relatively small operator. And he said, well, what's the big deal? There's no big challenge with this. It's actually relatively easy to work with my ops team. It's still a radio. You still need to send someone up a mast. And there's still a DU at the end of the site. So in terms of upskilling their workforce, it's actually... everything okay?
Right. No, I was just, they were talking, I could hear them, so I'm saying we need to be hearing you rather than hearing someone else.
Fair enough. So TELUS is a great example of a relatively small operator able to deploy vRAN at scale, upskilling its workforce, and really plowing through some of those challenges that the traditional RAN guys put up against us all the time. It has to be this, has to be, yeah, of course it has to be that. But it's actually really easy to deploy. Now, your talk is about security. Well, again, there's a little bit, from my basic college course, obfuscation, security by obfuscation is not security. And when you have a closed RAN, and you don't really know where the attacks are happening, look at attacks that are happening right now. In the news, they talk about attacking Verizon, AT&T networks. Are they open or are they closed networks right now? So what I love about Open RAN and a vRAN platform is the openness, the clarity. You can find where the vulnerabilities are and you can solve them, as opposed to have them closed and have a very small ecosystem of R&D folks saying, no, we're secure. How do you know they're secure? It's still a CPU, it's still an operating system, it can still be hacked. Very easy, you just don't know it's hacked. So Open RAN, the open community, more and more eyeballs on it, and then bringing more and more technology from adjacent industries into it, I think will deliver security for Open RAN. So that's where we're at. And then what we also really like as we scale out virtual RAN worldwide is what we found traditionally was a lot of what's happening in the US markets. Typically, it was sold into other markets. With a software-centric approach, you can define the silicon, the hardware, the software, and tailor it for your network. Again, I think you mentioned about Spectrum. Spectrum become a lot more diverse. It's only going to get worse, right, in terms of allocation. And then all of a sudden you have mergers happening. You see the merger happening in the UK. So the silicon that was defined, the platform that was defined for one or two major operators in the US, that model isn't going to cut it for scaling of RAN as we enter into, I'm not sure we want to call it 6G. Is 6G a bad term here? But as we get into new spectrum deployments, with a software-centric approach, you can tailor your hardware, your software for your network and scale up based on your spectrum, what you think is going to come down the pipe in the next 4 to 5 years.
So, you brought up the topic of 6G. We are getting used to 5G, and I think the bigger challenge, and the operators can obviously, they are the ones who feel the pain the most on this, is really how do we get that entire thing on spectrum? Because finally a large war is always on spectrum. And like Rajesh pointed out, the cost, right? Because ultimately all that falls down on the customer. So the more efficient you can make the entire processing and the core and the RAN, the lesser that impact ultimately on the customer. So yeah, I think we're still far off. First, let's get the true benefits of 5G, and then we can probably move on to 6G. But I'll leave it at that. We'll see when it comes. Okay, if I may shift to you, Prithvish, on XRAN, promoting greater interoperability among vendors, and what are the challenges that need to be addressed to ensure seamless integration between hardware and software from different service providers?
Thanks, Shobit. So I think our esteemed panelists have already covered most of the points, but still, when we look at the disaggregation, I think all of us are aware of it in the XRAN scenario. So just wanted to cite a few examples, like which can be interesting. So disaggregation at a hardware level, at a software level. So what we have been trying to do is, when we are building a radio at Pros, so there is also an option wherein you can take the software from someone and the hardware from someone, and that is integrated thoroughly, right? So obviously that calls for a lot of testing. So that is where the next question or the challenge comes in. So when it comes to the challenge part, so obviously when we build a radio, we have been building radios, single band, multi-band, and also 88R radios also, moving on to massive MIMO. So these radios have to be tested very thoroughly across all the planes, CSM planes, and also the end-to-end testing also that needs to be done. So this is first done at our labs. Then we move to the partner labs where they are tested thoroughly again. And the testing doesn't end here. So beyond this, we move to the final operator lab. So the entire setup has to be tested thoroughly before it finally moves onto the field. So here the intervention of the operator, I mean, we have been working with operators across the US market, in the European, the Middle East, and the APAC market also. So the engagement of the operator is really very, very critical in such cases. So it is tested over there, and only then it moves onto the field, just to ensure that there are no issues reported from the field, right? And as Dan mentioned, so regarding the security aspect, especially in the ORAN, so obviously we are complying as per the ORAN alliance. So we are complying to the ZTA or the ZTMM. So gradually we are building up. Obviously, if you look at the tenets, it needs some time to cover the entire thing, right? So that's all.
Thanks, Prithvish. Manish, if I may now finally come to you. Your expression says it all. I have now been patient. Let me unleash myself on this. So, okay. So, as telcos are trying to, like Rajesh and Savan was saying, the scaling is going to be the challenge. So as they are scaling, how does RAN enable more efficient network expansion at the cost, which is again a very, very sensitive topic from a telecom consumer perspective, whether it be retail or enterprise? And what role will these technologies play in supporting the future of telecom infrastructure? We will have the 6G standards now getting there. So how do you see this emanating there?
My expression was that, what do I talk now? Okay. Look, I think I'll just take a little bit more practical view of, what the industry is going through, right? Or what we should be doing in general. I really look at it, the RAN industry, from 4 or 5 different perspectives, right? I mean, and perspective is mostly from the operator's view, right? And we as the providers of the technology have to make sure that we, adhere to or meet those expectations, right? The expectation really the operators are bringing out. The first of all, right, is spectral efficiency, right? And the reason that I talk about spectral efficiency is because spectrum is a limited resource. It's not going to be there a whole lot. At some point of time, we will run out. And we're going to witness this. We saw it in 4G, we ran out of it. We're going to see it in 5G that we will run out of it. And in 6G, we're talking about, what kind of a spectrum to be used and all, right? But fundamentally, today in 5G and 5G advanced deployments, right, the spectrum efficiency is going to be one key goal for all so BPS per hertz is the mantra. The second thing that operators are really looking at is, how do I optimize the energy utilization, right? So my energy efficiency has to improve over the life cycle of the network. Today, we came up with the new technologies. They are all guzzle a lot of power, right? And they do. The first generation of the equipment that we built were, not trying to address that particular problem, right? But as we move along, we need to really start to focus that aspect. The third aspect that really operators are looking at is, how do I operate my network at the lowest cost? Because the OpEx beyond the energy is also pretty significant. So there is an implicit, objective in making sure that the networks can be operated far more efficiently, easily, by making sure and I'll talk about the solution aspect of it, right? The fourth thing, obviously, we're looking at is CapEx, the lowest cost thing we always want to do, right? And the last, but not the least, is how do I give the best experience to my customers? End of the day, all of us, abuse, right? Operators saying, oh, call dropped, oh, call doesn't go through. How do you make sure that you are basically living up to the expectation of the consumer, right? The big 5, objectives that operators have to continue to drive. Now let's look at the technologies that are available at our disposal, right? The first technology, everybody, we had talked about it, and I call it a little bit more differently now. I call it the softwarization of the radio access network. More than calling it an open RAN, more than calling cloud, it is fundamentally the softwarization that is taking place. And when you looking to softverize the RAN, which was very hard coupled with the hardware to begin with, now you want to make sure that the software lives up its own life, right? And therefore, it becomes extremely important that the hardware that is available for you to be able to efficiently do that. Because you will always compare past with what you're going to do in the future. So can we build hardware? Can we build the software at such an efficiency level that we don't discuss, is this a open RAN, is this a XRAN, is this a CRAN, is this VRAN? I mean, we don't have to talk about that, right? So long as the objective is, how do I give my best experience to the customer? So softwarization is a big challenge or enablement that we are basically bringing to the table. Now, what does it mean, right? The moment you decouple hardware from software, you can run the software anywhere. You can run it onto the, right below the cell tower, right below your radio. You can run it into the data center, or you can run it in the cloud. And it depends entirely on what's the state of the infrastructure that telcos have today. I mean, I would like to have everything, like talked about, saying that you can run 30, 40 sites clusters the software, especially the CU software, into the cloud and take advantage of sharing of the resources, right? That I cannot do unless I have a fiber running to my site. So if my infrastructure is saying that I don't have fiber to the site, I want to do all of this stuff that we need to do over the microwave links, I don't think it is possible, right? So the state of the infrastructure at each of the operator is going to determine what is the level of adoption that we're going to see to these technologies, right? And therefore, it is important for us to track what is the infra development that is taking place. There's a second aspect of this, and that is about the skill set, the manpower, right? We're talking about running the networks, especially the RAN networks, by the people who have been running the RAN networks plus 30 plus years, right? And they've been running in a specific way. And now when we say, oh, now this is not a single piece of hardware that you go change. Now you need to deploy the software separately, deploy the hardware separately, and I'll come about bringing the RAN, the RIC and all that, right? But we're saying that this is totally decoupled. Two guys have to run differently. The manpower, the people who are on the ground trying to run these networks, do they even understand CI/CD? Do they even understand DevOps? Do they understand how the cloud technologies are going to evolve? How the virtualization is going to take place? So it is extremely important for us, right? Yeah, they do. I'm coming, right? And I'm coming that the part of organization they know is on the IT side. The network side of the organization do not know that. So now how do we bring these two organizations together? All I'm trying to drive at is that different operators, different state of flux or state of maturity, as you want to call it, will determine how will they evolve, how the adoption will take place. I mean, for all great things, right, I would like to have an open RAN on day one. But do I have the ability to run that and make sure we run it efficiently as we do? And the last part of this technology that is really going to impact is the AI. We like it or not, though it is a buzzword at many different places, right? But the AI is going to play a very crucial role. And the role that I start to see, there are two places that AI will extremely impactful, right? One is running and bringing down the cost of operation, right? We talked about OpEx is extremely important, and that drives how much we can charge a plan for. We can practically replicate the whole network on the servers somewhere else and be able to figure out the behavior of the network without really trying to experiment on the network. That's the power of AI. That's the power of all the Gen AI that we've been talking about. So my view is that the technologies are here. They are enablers. All the operators will pick them up as to what is sweet for them, what allows them to grow to the next stage, step by step. And I think that is the path that we need to go after.
So Manish, thank you for that. I thought I was the consultant, and from 2 I was to make 5 points. You've done that beautifully. And I'll use your cue to actually ask each of the panelists on how they respond, right? Because you've given something on the panel, on the network and on the operators. You've given something on how it will look in the future. So let me ask that on Theo and Daniel, and I'll come to Prithvish as well. So Savan, if I may just ask, in terms of partly responding to what Manish said, and how are your views on how he's saying that there are so many elements that go in from an operator's point of view? How would you respond to that, please?
I believe, XRAN is evolving. These are the promises which technology promises to the telco world. And we do see merits. We are seeing the green shoots already. Today, networks have become so complex that managing these networks are really impossible manually. So it is important that at the same time, we are focusing on developing advanced tools which can orchestrate and manage these complex networks through a flexible architecture which XRAN promises. Right? So this is important. Second, since these are open interfaces, multiple vendors are involved delivering parts of solution, it is also important that they are doing interoperability properly and testing this solution not only in labs but also in field, right? So that is also very important. And then I would say sky is the limit.
Thanks for that, Savan. As always, network on the ground, but sky is the limit. So there you have. So Rajesh, if I may come to you, one other point that Savan mentioned, and obviously Manish talked about, the people, right? We are having a lot of people move in the networks. There has been a significant shift from where it started to where we are now. But we are used to a certain method, and change is always very difficult. Do you see that to be a challenge when we are looking at adopting this open RAN, etc., in terms of especially the people on the ground? Because ultimately we can say software defined and everything, but fact is people will run that or monitor it. How do you see that challenge from an operator's point of view?
When you adopt any new technology, that question comes in mind, and that is obvious. But somehow, if you see the RAN is not the first to take that challenge. A lot of, when we talk ORAN, it's a little bit, it's cloudified, softwarized. That was happened in other section little early. So all learnings are there. So people are very capable. Softwarization happened first before the RAN has adopted. So we are little follower, not the inventor. So we should not worry about it. I think capability point of, because cloud came in somewhere in 2014-15 eras, right?
10 years back.
Yeah, 8 years. So very well equipped. Softwarization also happened. And same time when this thing happens, software happens, a lot of tool came in the market. Now, as he was talking, Savan, the orchestrations, and those tools are very well is available. A lot of things, tools, layer apps is available. So you can use those tools, which was maybe missing earlier. So it's a combination of, and of course there's a learning curve, and I hope this learning curve is over. It's as more is lower adaptation. And I think future is very exciting. It's exciting as well as future is now.
So there, Rajesh is combined humor here again. Exciting networks, exciting RAN, and exciting future. So thank you that for Rajesh. Theo, if I can come to you, we're talking a lot more about what is present, but also what we are crystal gazing going forward. What do you think are the two things you expect in the next level of evolution? And do you see any challenges upfront that may happen or that may be faced at either the OEM level or at the operator level? I know this is I'm asking you to crystal gaze because, we have a set of questions, but I thought maybe given the discussion, this is a more appropriate thing to actually touch upon for our audience to hear.
I think it's a good question, right? So when we talk about this open RAN, there are many versions of it and many parts of it, right? We talk about the hardware and software decoupling, right? I think eventually it will work. It's just a matter of testing, make sure that we have the accelerator that can handle all the processing, and we sign a deal with AT&T. That will work, right? Eventually, right? The second part is, of course, open up the interface for RFs, for the non-real-time rigs, right? That is not real-time and it is not bar interface. I think it will work eventually, right? But what is more challenges, industry is pushing on the whole radio itself, the baseband, and also the radio, since all the while is proprietary, how to cut into half and make it open, right? And even though the interface is more or less, every vendor can talk to each other, right? For example, the radio talk to the baseband, it is true. Whatever the layer 1 messages you pass on to the baseband to process, we call it the category A, right? Then they create a lot of a transport issue, right? That is, if you have 4 antenna port, it's easy to sort of process the category A. But how about massive MIMO, right? You move to massive MIMO, we have 32 or 64 branch, and every branch has to be passed down to the baseband to process. If we just cut like that and ask the baseband to process, definitely it will create a performance issue, right? But Of course, people have said, oh, I just put 64 fiber, then it works, but then the TCO will go up, then the world doesn't work like that, right? Then also there are some proprietary things that after so many years of implementing the brand, some of our beamforming capabilities actually sitting on the radio. Now you have to force them to open and put it back into the baseband. Then it will definitely impact the performance, right? So what Ericsson also part of the O-RAN Alliance, if this is the trend moving forward, we have to actively contribute to the standard, make sure that the beamforming capabilities actually sit on the radio and there is a standard on it, right? Then you move the beamforming capability to the radio, we call it the category B, right? Then how about other things? Other things like the equalizer, where should this actually sit? The equalizer now, then they say, okay, maybe it's a class A or class B. The class A should be sit on the radio and class B sit on the baseband. Until only last year, some of this agreement and cut it down into the standardization is being agreed in the O-RAN Alliance and part of the standard. Then it start to be testing. If you can imagine that if we cut it like that 2 years ago, what will happen? It will definitely not fly. So I would say that if the vision is there, if the vendors and everyone actually put effort to really sort of make it sort of standardized with variants, like I mentioned before that, it has to make sure that when we evolve into architecture, the performance need to be equal or better, the hardware need to be smaller, and energy consumption need to be really lower. Then only we can see a motivation or business case to scale it further. Today, it's progressing. Even until last year, we still see this standardization and research is actually still going on. What happened actually, we say that, yeah, it will fly 3 years ago. It will not, right? So it will take some time to come.
No, thank you, Theo. You know, when you were saying all the things you were saying, there's so many different moving parts. It reminded me of a quote in a movie where someone is sitting on top of a rocket and he says, well, you're sitting on a rocket which is made of more than 1 million parts, which have to work in perfect harmony, built by the cheapest contractor, right? So your chance of survival is just defined by that. So, you know, while we say, oh, call just dropped, the fact is there are so many elements that come together at the back to actually make that happen. And we now, because we're so used to it and it's so ingrained in our daily life, right, we take it for granted. But like you said, there are vendors, there are manufacturers, there are regulators, there's the operator, there is the consumer, there are the intermediaries. There's so many different moving parts that need to come in a harmonious blend to actually deliver the experience that we are delivering. So with that, Daniel, may I come to you? How does Intel see all of this?
First, I think I want to go back and defend some of the folks who deploy these networks. I actually did a bit of that in my early life before I joined Intel. And the folks who do a lot of installation, you come across, they're one of the smartest people in our industry. They tend to be up to date with technology. They tend to have their own kit at home. So this fear of, oh, we need to upskill the workforce, well, they're actually the smartest people in our companies. That's the first thing. Secondly, I'm just super excited about we're in this still really early phase of democratizing the RAN. It became true before my time. It just became for whatever reason, maybe through a relentless focus on just TCO, there was a talent, a intelligence drained from the networking community. And now that's been brought back in by Open RAN. And having all those debates, whether you deploy traditional RAN or O-RAN or Cloud RAN, vRAN, whatever, we're having the debate, we're having the discussion. So for me personally, I'm just super excited about all the work that we're doing here in India, for example. We've got some great demos on the show floor. I'm not going to mention it because I'll forget someone and they'll give out to me. But some great demos of made for India networks, services, which then also will benefit from scale deployment in India and sell worldwide. So I'm super excited about that. And I think the AI bit, I think, you hit a nail on the head there. I think AI is here right now, for sure, and it can be used right now. I heard a very, very good analogy on a recent podcast about AI in RAN. From 0 to 10, if you track what's happening in autonomous cars. A lot of us have cruise control in our cars now. That's relatively standard. So that's kind of probably where we're at right now. That's probably level 1. We in terms of having AI in the DU, with what's the policing for it, we don't know. I think Prime Minister Modi talked a lot this morning about the ethics of deploying AI in Iran. So I'm not sure that might be a decade away from truly being deployed, but you can use and benefit from AI right now in the networks for sure. But yeah, I mean, for us, it's just we feel we're just on the cusp of something here. Opening up is a really rich ecosystem now of companies with products and services. The intelligence is coming back into the network and ownership. And I think we mentioned AT&T as well, and we talk about TCO, but I think you can comment on it as well, but I don't think it was a TCO move. It was very much the way Rob Sony would talk about it at AT&T. It's, we're cloudifying, we're going to standalone, and then we're going to services. So that's extra revenue generating services that we need to tailor up that we can't do right now, whether it's because it's traditional RAN or it's a mixed bag of NSA, SA, who knows? But that's their roadmap. So I'm also super excited about how successful they will be. Will they be successful? We don't know.
Okay. No, thank you for that. I think, we were discussing about something in a different topic, and, one person came up and said, the success of the venture will not be defined on what we think. It'll be defined by what the market really thinks, right? The consumer really thinks. So very exciting space. Finally, whatever we think is successful is not necessarily what will translate into success with the consumer. Manish, if I can come to you. If you were, and you listed down 5 already before, but if I was to ask you for one big challenge that you see in the next 2 years on the evolution of RAN, and what possibly is a solution that you think is there, what would you say?
Well, look, I do believe that AI is going to create the impact that we haven't even imagined yet, right? From many different perspectives, right? And I was just thinking, in our own daily lives, right? When we used to operate the network, what is the mobility? What is the user density? What is the kind of clutter that we are seeing? What is the kind of throughputs that we want to achieve? There are a lot of moving parts in a telco network, right? And if we really start to see that if we have to adapt to this, dynamic environment, if we were to get aided by AI, where it learns quickly about the behavior or about the usage or about the environment and adapts the network automatically to move and do changes without having to go through this decision-making process, because in telcos operations, right, there are many decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis, right? If we can simplify that, right, that will bring tremendous efficiency into many things. One is that rolling out new capabilities, because one of the large problem statement that we have is that, yes, we know the features are available. We know, things are very easily, into the pipeline. But how quickly you are able to roll it out to the customer for them to start using it? If we can bring that velocity, you'll start to see more and more customers getting happy with the kind of capability that we are rolling them out, right? So if one single thing that I really need to identify, I feel that the impact on OpEx is going to be extremely, important, and AI is the way to do it.
Fair. I think, it's a question mark in a lot of minds of people who are going to be managing this how much do you want to allow AI to take control, right? For sure, the decision making will be faster, but there are a lot of ethics, there are a lot of things. From consumer point of view, the faster the network responds to a demand or
The
need.
beauty in RAN is that you're not identifying people, right? People are identified as the signal sources. Okay, thankfully, we do not have to really identify people by people. So the privacy concern on that is not so much. And therefore, I see that there will be a lot more.
No, absolutely. I don't think so. I'm looking at purely the privacy angle. You're fair in that. Because this is a community at large, right? So that's not going to be the right. Prithvish, that gets me to you, please. Your one key view and any challenge you see going forward on how this story is going to pan out. It's an exciting area. It's an exciting development.
Yeah.
What next do you think?
I would concur with Manish. So one thing is energy, which every operator is looking at globally, energy, right? And also in the field of AI, what is happening is, well, we have to use it in a very judicious way, that's for sure. But when we look at the LLMs, so even the operators today are realizing that could be only one LLM does not suit all their needs. So even a single operator in Korea, they have invested into 3 LLMs. Now, obviously, when we talk about LLM, it will take time to learn and to deliver, right? So I think AI in telecom is certainly going to come in the future. ORAN is a stepping stone, right? And energy, obviously, OPEX. That's the major feature.
Yeah, I remember on energy topic is a very sensitive topic, right?
True.
Everyone has to look out for that.
True.
I recall when we were just getting, indoctrined into telecom, the biggest P&L was power. And in India, power is costly. So, and I'm sure in most of the countries it is. So that is definitely a very important aspect. The more we as a consumer, we don't realize that how much we've started using on data, right? And the throughput.
Certainly.
And even if the network is consuming the same amount, the efficiency is multiple X of what the first, second, and third generation have actually done. So thank you. I think if you don't mind, I'll like to move to the audience and see if there's any burning question they've been holding at bay. So anyone, any questions for any of the panelists? If you'd like to identify any of them, please say so. Otherwise, if you want to call a generic question, and I'll direct it accordingly.
Fundamentally, any innovation that we try to bring in will generate some sort of, acceptance cycles, right? And I see when we talked about Open RAN to begin with, when it was first founded and when it was called Xciting, it made the existing ecosystem sit up and say, wow, if I open this up, this will basically create more competition for me, right? So there is an economics at play as well. So everybody is realizing that the value will come from somewhere, okay? But if you don't start to talk, you don't start to experiment with it, that value will get lost somewhere. And I want this value to show up. It will show up in different forms. And I said, I didn't talk about Open RAN right at the beginning because I believe it is not that discussion. The discussion is about how much technology change that you're bringing into the RAN network. Hardware, software, decoupling, change in technology, bringing cloud, change in technology. All of this is good or bad. Depends on, you can do your own math, whether it suits or not. What is the state of the operator is going to determine whether I'm going to adopt a particular technology at a particular point of time or not. So I think, you have to take innovation with a pinch of salt. Disruptions do happen, and you need to see what is going to work for you.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Manish. But obviously, as you mentioned, that we are not seeing Open RAN, that's not true. I think if we look at the $14 billion deal which happened in the US, that's Open RAN. There are at least 3 or 4 greenfield operators, and we are already working with the brownfield operators. So it takes time, but obviously the innovation which comes along with Open RAN, with so many vendors putting in their thoughts or new ideas. So, see, the legacy vendors are to stay, right? It is a market for everyone.
No. My question was not that. I think Manish took it another way. My question was, last so many years we are, talking about this.
True.
Open RAN, Xciting,
True.
and all the concerns remain same. All the concerns remain same along all these years.
Not exactly.
Have we solved any concern? Maybe scalability? No. Maybe cost? No. Maybe manpower? No. I am not telling that we are not open for any new ideas. I am telling when concerns are remaining same all these continuous years, that means there is some delay is coming somewhere, which industry need to sort out, or otherwise we have to give up that dream. Continuously, you cannot say 4 or 5 years continuously same kind of problem we are facing, same kind of thing we are not able to solve. That means somewhere stop has to be there, or we improve the things.
See, what I would say, single line, that different countries or continents have reacted differently. So some may be lagging behind, but some are forging ahead. So it is a choice which we have. So if we choose to move forward, then we move forward. Or else we go in for directly for the air and perhaps it brings about more benefits, right? So it depends. It's totally the choice of the operators. The capex is theirs, right?
So, sorry, I think there's another question, and we may take this offline if you don't mind. This will, see, the challenge also I see is it's always a moving goalpost, right? When you've achieved something, you want to get for the more. So I guess that cat and mouse game will continue to play. There's one other question, I think. Yes, there's a hand up, please. Sorry, this will be the last question. We'll have to close the session because we have to exit the hall after that.
Yeah, thank you. So great discussion. I think a lot of insights. So I have a question on AI in RAN, and I will ask both Airtel and Vodafone. So how, like...
Sorry, could you please identify yourself first?
Yeah, my name is Atul Deshpande. I'm Chief Architect with Red Hat. And my question is for AI and RAN, right? Like when we started with cloudification of the telcos, right? We had that goal, right? This much be virtualized, this much percentage of it. So are we thinking on the same lines that now this much of my network is driven by AI-based thing, and this much it will be in next 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years, and then maybe I'm looking at complete 100% AI-driven networks or AI-driven RAN kind of thing, right? So is this the same thinking as telcos are adopting, and what are the top use cases currently in production, and what are the use cases you would like to see in production for next 2-3 years associated to that? Yeah.
Firstly, it's not one question, it's probably 5.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can take only one of them. It's your choice. Yeah, thank you.
It's a good question.
Thank you.
So I would say this is a journey. AI is a journey, right? And there'll be use cases, deployed by telcos with time, and some of the early AI use cases that telcos are deploying and what Airtel has deployed. I think first use case is machine learning, AI-based, energy saving, where you can predict the traffic for each cell. You can have a profile for each cell, and you can actually maximize the opportunity to save the energy. That is the first use case that we are deploying. The second use case is ducting interference. Since 5G is mainly TDD, 4G, 60% of the traffic is carried on TDD, and ducting is a big problem in India. So it is important that we actually do machine learning and some prediction on ducting and start taking actions proactively to manage the experience. So that is the second use case that telcos are working, we are working. And there will be many more. You can have better sectorization if you know where the users are. You can schedule resources much better if you know the demand, right? So there will be multiple opportunities, but yes, it will take some time to roll out these use cases.
Got it. Thank you.
I think Sawan has explained most of things. I will just add a few points. As we all discussing XRAN and ORAN, it's open platform and it's more softwarized. Once you say softwarized means you're ready for AI. So whatever AI form will come, and especially in RAN network will come faster because optimization requirement is very high. It's very complex network. And just to tell you what Sawan was telling, AI and ML is already adopted in many RAN networks. When the massive MIMO technology came, it's 60/40, 64R. Means it was beamforming. And it was humanly impossible to optimize those networks. So I think his network and my network, I think somewhere software release 17 or 716, we use this AI ML algorithm, but it was not direct consumer facing, so-called, people were not excited. But as a back boys or you say back the stage, this was happening. And it's already happening. All multi-beam forming and weave technology, the IML is built in. So it's a standalone algos which is built in Node-Bs. They do perfectly their jobs. Traffic steering, where is the customer, consumer, scheduling, interference cancellation, all is happening. Yes, it's being more open platform and more AI will get adopted. If AI comes in whatever form will get adopted. I think one last question I will answer because this was debating this side. I think question was valid. In fact, ORAN, maybe this platform, I also am talking last 3-4 years and many people talked on ORAN. What you're saying, what will happen in next 1-2 years? So one thing what I stated in my initial remarks, there was 2 camps. So it is collaboration who's to happen in ORAN. Without collaboration, it will not happen.
Cannot happen.
It's best of the breed. What we talked about, it has to come best chips. Maybe Intel will produce or producing, in fact. Best hardware, best software, best operator, and best people to operate even. So all is best has to be there. It all happened, but there was 2 camps. One was the niche player which was trying to dislodge the big brothers, which I said now big brother itself has adopted. So this big movement has happened. Now big brothers and small brothers who was trying to niche and was trying to challenge them is no more challengers. Both camps are same, one-sided. So now once it's moving together, it will surely happen.
Thank you, Rajesh. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to conclude this part of the session. I would really like to thank each of our panelists, Prithvish, Manish, Daniel, Theo, Rajesh, Savan. Thank you. The better part of moderating the panel is I don't get the questions, but I get richer from this. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure of having you. I know it's the first session. It always takes time to get into the motion of it. And if you'd like, we just have a small memento to give to each of the panelists. Please, and then we'll have a quick photo call, and then the audience is ready to be unleashed. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you. I'll Please, let's have one.